Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Season Keepers, the show where the only two people we recommend keeping for the season is us. My name's Matt, aka Clean Sheet Wipeout.
My name's James, aka FPL Drug.
Something a bit different today, isn't it, James? It is the first ever episode of our Sky Fantasy Football podcast. How are you feeling?
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good to give it the attention it deserves, rather than a kind of a 5 to 10 minute segment on our old format of pods. But yeah, now it's all about Sky for this one.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're tuning in for some FPL content, then I suggest you turn off now. But hopefully you're here for the Sky content. So I think first things first, we should probably explain to everybody maybe a bit of who we are in case they're coming on for, just the Sky pod to start with. Maybe explain how you got into the game, James, and then how you got on last season.
Yeah. So I think I did actually play it before last season, but very casually, didn't understand the format, didn't understand the game, and then lost interest after a couple of months. However, last season was my sort of first season. Was like, right, let's give this a go. You can win 50 grand.
What's not to love about 50 grand?
Exactly. But the idea of getting points for, say, how many passes a player made, how many shots on target a player had, it excited me, to be honest. After sort of being used to the sort of traditional official FPL format, it's nice to make CDMs an option. So suddenly the likes of Højbjerg, Kante, whoever become a little bit more exciting, and you can't just ignore them.
Agreed.
And yeah, last season I did okay for a first season. I came sort of, I think, about 2k in one team, and I think it was about 10k in the other team, which I was okay, satisfied with. But I'm hoping to push on this season. And I understand you had a very good season, Matt.
Yeah, I don't want to gloat. No, like you, very much a beginner last season. Was my first season. The only reason I got involved in Sky is because, Planet FPL, Fantasy Football Hub, both of those lads, I kind of listen to their pods regularly anyway. And they kept mentioning the Sky game. So I had to look at it. Like you've said, defensive midfielders were an option. The whole thing about tiering, planning as well. Was really interesting, and it gripped me. So, I got into Sky. Took me probably 3 or 4 weeks to really get used to it. And by then, I think, we had the first overhaul. So I was able to then replan. I got to the semi-finals of the Sky Cup, which I was fuming that I missed out, but I had spunked all my transfers in my second team on the Sky Cup. By the time I came to the final, I didn't have any left. So, yeah, I think the guy beat me by about 16, 20 points, fair play to him. I think he went on to win. So, yeah, I was beaten by the winner, which was good. And then in the main game, I came 44th overall, which I was very happy with. Probably a shout out to Corf and Rob Pick. I was part of their kind of Sky beginners group. They created one on Twitter. And it was very much a case of, chatting to us before the season started and coaching us a little bit throughout the season. So hopefully I can take that on board and, provide you guys with a bit of insight now and push on from there. I guess moving on, first things first, this is the first episode, and what we want to cover on a fairly basic level, but we want to discuss prices and fixtures. It's something similar that we've done on the Fantasy Football podcast we've done, and we feel it's a good starting point for people to get into the game, review the fixtures. We've only got 3 weeks to plan before overhaul. I've got my own opinions on that, but we'll discuss that later. And then, the prices, because it's very different to FPL. The prices are fixed. There's no price rises, price falls, as you probably all know, because you're tuning into a Sky podcast. So I think, first things first, James, shall we look at the first 3 weeks of fixtures? Maybe in terms of difficulty defensively to start with?
Yeah, why not? Let's get stuck into it.
Right. I think the best thing with Sky is we probably don't even have to mention the last 10 teams in this list, because you're not going to go on them for the first 3 weeks. So what we've looked at, and again, credit to Fantasy Football Hub, I've pulled up their tracker, reviewed it down to the first 3 weeks. And surprise, surprise, looking at those fixtures, Aston Villa, top of the easiest defensive fixtures, game week 1 to game week 3, playing Watford away, Newcastle at home, Brentford at home.
Yeah, very tasty fixtures. You'd fancy them on the opening day to get a clean sheet against Watford.
Agreed.
Even Newcastle. I mean, it's hard to say what the toughest game out of those 3 is. Probably actually Watford on the opening day, because Watford are going to be excited. They're going to be wanting to make a good impression back in the Premier League. So I feel like if there's going to be a shock, it's more likely to happen on that opening day.
No, 100%. And obviously we were both well in on the Martinez train last season, weren't we? And I fully expect his ownership to be pretty high going into this season again.
I mean, yeah, we'll come on to his price later, but he's not been priced out of contention.
No.
And yeah, for these 3, it's hard to find a better keeper to have really for these run of fixtures.
Agreed. I think the other 2 teams that have our interest defensively will be Brighton, who Lewis Dunk became an absolute Sky Fantasy Football sensation last season. And West Ham, they're both kind of second and third in the defensive fixture ticker. And again, I'm quite intrigued by at least 2 of the fixtures for both teams.
Yeah, very kind. I guess with this one, it's maybe if you're thinking about if you're doubling up in terms of a defensive double up, whether I don't know if you'd like perhaps a Kufau for West Ham, or maybe then get Martinez, or you could even do Kufau and Fabianski.
Yep.
Likely to potentially get some saves, maybe some save tiers against Leicester, maybe.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually.
Having said that, they may also lose their clean sheet for that game. But Newcastle's obviously a very tasty tie.
Yeah.
Although Palace, we could be underestimating Palace, maybe in this metric, it's not taking into account sort of the amount that Palace have strengthened. Obviously, they've signed quite a few players now, and they're looking to buy more.
They have. I've been very impressed.
Every day I go on Twitter and Palace are linked with someone.
It feels that way, doesn't it? It literally feels like as soon as Vieira's come into Palace, he's stepped forward and he's gone, right, I want him, I want him, I want him. Go and get them. And they're being successful. And yeah, like you said, I think they've signed at least 3, maybe 4 players. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get a few of the old guard that, were out of contract at the end of last season back. See, it won't be Townsend. We saw that he's moved on, but I think a few of the others might end up coming back to Palace. The other one, I guess, Brighton. You've mentioned the defensive double up there. For me, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of people double up on Brighton with Sanchez in goal and then Lewis Dunk potentially in the back. We have seen recently that there are rumours that he might be out game week 1. I think Potter came out and said that Lamptey is definitely out. Dunk, at the moment, he had a foot operation, so he's not even back to fitness yet. One to keep an eye on, but you've also got the likes of Webster. So, I really like Brighton's fixtures. Burnley away, Watford at home, Everton at home even. The way that they played last season, I can see them probably 2 clean sheets in there. And I mean, if you have got a Lewis Dunk, passing tier instantly, you're talking he's starting on 5 points with his tiering. And if they keep a clean sheet, he's immediately up to 10.
And he's obviously capable of scoring. We saw that last season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big threat in the air.
Yeah, and I guess for me, the whole emphasis on tiering in the Sky game means even though the fixtures aren't necessarily the easiest, the likes of Liverpool and Man City defenders still, are there. So Ruben Dias, even though they start with Tottenham away, wouldn't surprise me for him to get passing tier in that game. And then they've obviously got Norwich and Arsenal. Now, Dias often last season was being captained by most people, even if you own De Bruyne, because again, very likely to get a 10-pointer. And it's those kind of consistent points that you're looking for in the Sky game, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And Tottenham and Liverpool both got sort of 2 very good fixtures, with one sort of slightly tough fixture where they're still, as you say, probably end up hitting tiers anyway.
Yeah. The Tottenham team, I'm not sure what to make of it, because obviously it's that Man City game, first game of the season, that worries me. But after that, yeah, Wolves, Watford, I mean, they're two relatively good fixtures. The only thing that puts me off maybe gambling on them before overhaul is I have no idea how Nuno's going to set up.
No, and we also, I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen with Harry Kane. If he leaves, obviously that's going to affect the squad. There's a lot of unknowns with Tottenham, and I think that's why people are sort of staying away.
Yeah, I think the other player worth mentioning defensively, and I was consistently told at the beginning of last season, this man is a must-have. He's an absolute Sky Fantasy Football legend. It is Virgil van Dijk, and we didn't really get to see that thanks to Jordan Pickford. So Norwich away, Burnley at home, Chelsea at home. If Van Dijk starts the season, and it's a big if, because there are rumours it might be Matip and Konate to start, and then we could see Van Dijk come in for the Burnley or Chelsea game. But if Van Dijk starts, I'm tempted to go with him. If not, I think Robertson is a very easy switch. Similar price, slightly cheaper than Trent. So I think stats-wise, for the first 3 weeks, will probably be similar in value and similar in points. So I wouldn't put you off going Robertson.
Yeah, I think all three, providing obviously if Van Dijk was to start the first fixture, I think they're all pretty good options. Almost feels like a lottery as to which one will be the right one. I feel like if you might go Trent and Van Dijk will score from a corner, you just don't know.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame we didn't have Van Dijk sort of last season, really.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, he was kind of got injured, and then that kind of removed him from the game, essentially.
It did. I think it almost cemented Diaz being in most people's teams.
It did, and it would have been interesting to see whether people would have tried to have both Diaz and Van Dijk, because obviously that would have been quite a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have that kind of dilemma this season.
Agreed. Two teams that I'm quite surprised to see so low on the ticker are Leicester and Man United, because looking at Leicester's fixtures, I think they're there because of that West Ham game. But Leicester can be a very defensively solid team. And obviously the likes of Soyuncu, again, passing tiers, tackle tiers are there. See Fofana, if starts, if he's fit, he's an option. I wouldn't put you off gambling on a Leicester defender if you wanted to take a punt.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be honest. I think I can't see Wolves scoring against them, and I can't see Norwich scoring against them. So that's at least 2 out of the 3 I'd say would be clean sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not bring in Fofana? Probably wouldn't go for Schmeichel myself, but
no,
it's up to yourself. But
no, I guess the only risk factor for me is the formation that they play with, because obviously they've got Johnny Evans, Soyuncu, Fofana is like 3 centre backs. If they go 4 at the back, which one misses out?
It's a good question.
It's tough.
Maybe even Johnny Evans.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking to FPL Foxy, and yeah, I think he mentioned that Evans could be the one to slowly miss out, mainly because of his age. We know that Soyuncu is exceptional on his day. Quite a surprise package given the reason that he came in is because of Maguire moving on. And then Fofana, I just think Fofana is going to be an exceptional defender. I think moving on to attacking fixtures. No surprise, Aston Villa, once again, top of the charts.
I mean, yeah, it speaks for itself. It's just a great set of fixtures. And with Buendia, the introduction of him, feeding Watkins, I think the returns are there. And I mean, we'll come on to his price later, but Buendia is nicely priced. I think
very.
Both him and Watkins, I wouldn't be put off of a double up to start
No,
the season. I
not
think.
at all. In my current draft for both teams, I have Watkins and Buendia. Mainly down to the fact that I don't know where Grealish is going to be. There's rumours, obviously, that Man City have touted him, and deals are in place, conversations have been had. If that's the case, I think Buendia becomes very much the focal man of that Aston Villa creative force, feeding Watkins. And for the price that he is, I think it's exceptional value. And why not take a punt on Buendia for the first 3 weeks? Because the fixtures are there and they're very targetable. And the other benefit with Sky is the fact that you can load up on more than 3. So if you really wanted to gamble on, say, your second team, we've only got 3 weeks that we're playing for. Why not punt on 4 Aston Villa players?
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a bad move. You could do Martinez, Watkins, Buendia, and Mings all target. I think that'd be quite tasty.
No, definitely. And then obviously, I guess there's a reason these teams are up there, because their defensive fixtures are quite easy as well. But West Ham, Man City, Man United. Surprising to see Newcastle rated 3rd in the ticker, with West Ham at home, Villa away, and then Southampton at home. I don't think I'll be gambling on any Newcastle players.
No, it might be us bumping up the average there. The old 9-0.
Fuck me, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, Callum Wilson is a player I like. But yeah, I don't know. Those first 2 don't feel too easy, in my opinion. West Ham and Villa.
No, not at all. I think Newcastle, you could potentially, there will be points in the season where they might have a single game day, or they've got a good run that someone like a Saint-Maximin or a Wilson will become very useful in Sky. I would be surprised to see their ownership more than 10% in the beginning, because why would you? You don't need Newcastle for captaincy. And I just think there are better options across the board, even for some of the teams slightly further down this attacking ticker. I'd prefer, say, the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin to a Callum Wilson. Yeah, Everton are ranked kind of 8th, 9th, because they've got Saints, then Leeds away and Brighton away. But they're still targetable fixtures for Calvert-Lewin. And if he's on form and if he has a point to prove, he could score in all 3 of those games.
Yeah, definitely could. I mean, Torres at Man City, I think maybe would be good for the second game against Norwich. You don't want to sort of sleep on that fixture, I don't think.
No, yeah. The Man City fixture against Norwich is one that I think is going to have a lot of us questioning what we do. Because other than Ruben Dias, I can't see many of us gambling in Sky or Man City assets. Not until they have a really good run, or there's a lot of 2-for-1s and 3-for-1s, because you just don't know who's going to start. And obviously, we've not touched on it yet, but most of you already know that with Sky, you get 11 players. There's no bench. So if someone misses out, that player is scoring 0 and you're fucked. So as much as I'm gambling on Torres and FPL, and if you've listened to our FPL shows, you'll hear about that, but I won't be touching him in Sky.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more cautious as well in Sky. I kind of want to know they're definitely or extremely very likely to play almost every game.
Yeah,
that's why Ruben Dias was so popular for people last season, because it felt like he barely missed out. Obviously, towards the end he started to, but before that he was playing every game.
Yeah, no, exactly. But the other thing with Sky is the fact that we get to pick a captaincy for every single game day of a week. So in front of me, I've got a planner that kind of outlines single captaincy days and who's the best captain option. We would probably not consider Brentford to start with in Sky had it not been for this Arsenal versus Brentford fixture on the Friday, the 13th of August. First fixture, you have to have a captain. Now, for me, I'll be going Brentford and probably Tony, because, they play Arsenal, but then they've got Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. If you're willing to gamble on an Arsenal player against Brentford, clean sheet, maybe, You're then playing Chelsea and Man City after that. Do you really want them for those two fixtures?
Exactly. I think Tony is the clear pick for me, especially obviously if you're going for a Brentford player. Yeah, Arsenal's fixtures, as you say, after that game are what kind of put you off. That's not to say though that you could not make a decent gain on the night, obviously with it being a captaincy day,
and then move on.
Yeah, like you could go for. I mean, we'll see the lineup obviously.
Yep.
So if Smith Rowe's starting, why not?
Yeah, it's a fair point. And obviously, if you're willing to, if in your mind that you want to use a transfer in the first 3 weeks, that is very much an option. And we'll probably in the next couple of weeks talk about how we're both approaching these 3 fixtures before overhaul. But that is one way of looking at it. Like if you're willing to book in 1 or 2 transfers to make some early gains, the option is there. And say, for instance, Pepe is starting. He finished the season brilliantly last season. If he's starting against Brentford, I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the score sheet or get an assist. Now, he is then of a good value that allows you to move on to another player in the next 2 weeks. And, Man City, for instance, you could realistically move from Pepe to Torres.
Yeah. I was just thinking that myself. That'd be a great move to make because obviously we said about the first fixture for City, but then you get kind of the best of both worlds there.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously on Saturday the 14th, the fixtures are a lot more spread. For me, I think Liverpool probably standout captaincies away to Norwich.
Yeah.
Man United have got Leeds at home. Could be a very good game. Like most people are going to start with Bruno, maybe Sancho if you want to gamble. So Leeds could be a good captaincy there with goals. But yeah, for me, I'll be on probably Mo Salah.
Yeah, as will I. And then it gets a bit more tricky on the 15th. So you've got Tottenham playing City, Newcastle playing West Ham. I think the way my team's looking at the moment, I'll probably end up on a Kufal captain for that game day. I don't know about yourself.
At the moment, I have Antonio in both teams. I'm just hoping that he doesn't pull his hamstring in the first game against Newcastle, and then I have to transfer him out for those Leicester and Crystal Palace. But I think you're right to have a West Ham player in there because they have obviously, as well as having that fixture where it's Tottenham Man City, tough one to call, they also have on Monday the 23rd the single game day against Leicester. So you're potentially getting 2 captaincies out of a West Ham player if you were willing to captain one against Newcastle and then Leicester, which is why I'm targeting Antonio, because I think West Ham might be more likely to score against Leicester than they would be to keep a clean sheet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But obviously Kufal's not shy of an assist.
No, fair. You reminded me of that countless times last season.
Yeah, no, it's very enjoyable. But yeah, I think you want to obviously be on a West Ham or Leicester player to have that game day covered.
For sure. Saturday the 21st is a tricky one. You've got obviously Villa, Newcastle at home, potential. Man City, Norwich is obviously the standout fixture, and that's what we've spoken about. For me, I'll be probably captaining Ruben Dias in that game.
Yeah, if I've got City, I think I'll be on a City captain. But if not, I'd feel quite happy with an Ollie Watkins captain against Newcastle.
Yeah, no, decent shout. Would you be willing to take a punt on Kevin De Bruyne, or would you need clarification from Pep that he is 100% to start the season?
I think I'd need clarification, yeah. And based on the sort of the way he played at sort of the second half of last season, I just don't feel too comfortable with him.
No, I agree. I mean, Norwich could very well be a 20-pointer for De Bruyne. I mean, he could pick up passing, tackle, shooting, could get a goal and an assist. Man of the match, which, is a fucking abysmal thing in Sky. I can't stand the man of the match decision sometimes, but we'll come on to that one day. But yeah, I mean, if you got a 20-pointer and you've captained him, that's 40 points from, a single player. That's a great jump for the start of the season, but it's a risky one, and one that maybe, again, if you wanted to be really punty in your second team, you can either I don't think you can lose it in the first 3 weeks, but you could certainly put yourself in a bloody good position come the start of overhaul to then drive forward. And if a few punts that you make in, say, your second team come off, you're flying.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the game is about risk taking, and I mean the opportunity is there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The next game of game day of captaincy is the 22nd. The standout one, I'm sad to say, probably is United against Saints.
Yeah, Bruno captain all day.
Yeah, it's kind of, and obviously Bruno himself is obviously this kind of standout captain pick.
Yeah,
obviously on pens and more than capable of assisting or scoring.
Yeah, I mean, if he's got the likes of Jadon Sancho and Greenwood might even start the season with Rashford, not being fit with his operation. If he's feeding the likes of them, they're like very, very likely to finish chances. So yeah, Bruno gets the odd penalty, but that man could get some assists in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yep, agreed. Obviously, we've kind of covered the 23rd.
Yeah, the whole West Ham Leicester.
And then there's plenty of choice on the 28th.
Yeah, 28th and 29th, I think, Leicester stand out. West Ham, again, they've got Crystal Palace at home. You could very much go there, or Villa, Brentford at home. There's probably that third week is a good week to be a little bit more differential with your captaincy pick. Whereas I think maybe for the first couple of game weeks and particularly a few of the match days, it might be a little bit too early to be too punty on a captaincy choice.
No, agreed. Obviously, less choice for the Sunday and that game week. You got your Burnley, Leeds, United, Wolves, Spurs, Watford. Obviously, if Harry Kane hasn't moved, then that would be the standout pick for every man and his dog.
Big time.
But even if when we know Son's going to be there, he signed a new deal.
He has. It's a good, and again, Son, another one of those, Pepe to Son. Could you make that move? Potentially if you can afford it, or if you've got the formation to do so. If you want to make a transfer, that Tottenham Watford fixture is one to target. If not, Leeds might be a really good option against Burnley away. The likes of Rafinha, still very much affordable in the game. I think could be another good option. Or if you wanted to, you could move on to like a Bamford. Leeds are. I fully expect Leeds to kick on this season.
Yep, agreed. Bamford's still a good price as well.
Exactly. And then from that, we don't really need to talk any more about fixtures because Sky have, in my opinion, put overhaul 3-4 weeks too early, but it means that we're only having a focus on the first 3 weeks. So there is no point in us discussing any further. However, I know that you've been looking at some prices. So would you like to have a rundown about who maybe stands out, who looks like, slightly overpriced, slightly underpriced? Fire away, mate.
Yeah, there's a few that I've sort of gone down through team by team that have sort of caught my eye. Some are kind of conditional or based on whether they're going to play or not. Obviously, then they'll become great options. Smith Rowe, straight off the bat, obviously we'll get the team news, 7.5 million. Not a bad price for a midfielder if he's starting. If you say you didn't want to go for Tony and wanted to have 3 different strikers that weren't with no Brentford, you could go for Pontus Jansson at the back at 6.2.
Okay, yeah.
Very, very cheap. So he's an enabler that allows you to maybe cram in Kevin De Bruyne or who else you want to fit into your team. Maybe if you want to have 2 Liverpool defenders, that's an option, and Janssen can allow you to do that.
And it's those enablers, like you say, that if you can find 1 or 2, it allows you to use that budget elsewhere. In jumping on the likes of De Bruyne can be like game changers in this game.
No, it really does. And another one of those is Sanchez in goal for Brighton. I think 6.5.
So cheap.
Very good price.
Yeah,
he's surprised at that one.
He's 0.7 million cheaper than Martinez, which surprised me. And the fact that I really rate Brighton's first 3 fixtures, I can see Sanchez maybe outscoring Martinez. And then I had a little look at the teams selected by, and Martinez is top. Sanchez is at the moment 7th on that list in terms of percentage ownership. So if you're willing to go against the grain a little bit, I think Sanchez is a brilliant price.
Yeah, no, fantastic price. Obviously, we mentioned earlier Brendier at 7.9, very good price.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel too much of a punt, actually. He's like we've seen him play before. He's a very good player. I mean, I've put Harrison. I think he's not too bad. He is priced at 8 million. He was so impressive last season.
Yeah,
and I think he's only going to build on that. And I think him and Rafinha are both potential good picks.
Agreed. The player for talking to Brentford quickly, obviously Ivan Toney, was it 7.9? Again, if you wanted to take a punt, and I'd want to see how Brentford set up pre-season, and I mean we also get to see the lineup, don't we, for that first game? Mbeumo is a player that I've looked at because I know that he's played up top for Brentford last season, as well as on the wing, but annoyingly also as wing back occasionally. So it is a risk, but he's 7.2 million as a midfielder. So again, could be a really good enabler if you know that he's going to be more attacking and play alongside Toney. And that's why I say it depends on how he sets up, because I mean, that 0.7 million again could make a big difference come the start of the season. It could be the difference between going for a Robbo or going for a Trent if you didn't want to gamble on Van Dijk, for instance.
No, it really could. And I think we're going to need at least one or two of these sort of little bargains in Sanchez or a Brentford player to sort of enable you to get all the expensive players that you want in your team.
Yeah.
Another shout, I think, for Fana at 7.9 isn't too bad.
It's not bad, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's worth maybe keeping an eye on when James Justin's going to return, because he's only 7.5 million.
I know, he's, for me, underpriced, given the amount of times he holed last season when he was fit.
Yeah, it was sickening last season. I don't think I had him in either game, Sky or official FPL. Obviously, they bought Darker at 8.5. I'm not going to claim to know a lot about him, but if you're looking for a punt, that's not a bad price point to have. There's plenty of other options sort of around that price.
Yeah, annoyingly with this Darker signing, it puts me off punting on the likes of Iheanacho, because for the money that they've paid for him and for the kind of all the talk about how good a player he could be and the fact that they're in like European football, are we likely to see rotation between Vardy, Daka, and Iheanacho? Because if we are, that's a worry. Like last season, Iheanacho was exceptional, and if you weren't on him, you were suffering in Sky. There was captaincies for Leicester, left, right, and centre. And time again, that man was hauling. But could we see him rotated with Vardy and Daka? Like, I don't know if that's a risk I'm willing to take until I know a little bit more about how much they're going to use this fella.
Agreed. It is a bit of a tricky one, and I don't think they've really tempted me with Vardy's price. I think it's a little bit too much. I thought maybe, another year older, maybe they'll lower him, but
it's the same in FPL. Like, I think
he's overpriced. Obviously, we've seen Lingard has been starting in pre-season for Man United. Whether
he scored as well.
Yeah, he's been playing well. Whether or not he starts the campaign, if he was to start for Man United, then 8.2 million is a steal. And then you've got the likes of, again, if you're looking for enablers, you can go to Norwich. You can get Gilmore at 6.9, Cantwell at 7.4, and maybe the sort of blast from the past of Timo Pukki at 7.7.
The Pukki party. Yeah, I don't think I'll be gambling on Timo Pukki in this game. Not until their fixtures turn. But you're right to mention the likes of Billy Gilmore, because Sky allows you to gamble on those kinds of players, because I fully expect Billy Gilmore to be a very busy boy in those first 3 games if he's starting. So tackle tier wouldn't surprise me if he hit tackle tier 2.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. He's been obviously played very well against England in the Euros. At that price, it's worth a punt. Around that price, you've also got at the back Mitchell for 7 million for Palace. I mean, Palace have strengthened, and I think he's also come out in an interview saying how he wants to be more attacking this year.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's music to FPL managers' ears.
absolutely.
Might be getting assists. I mean, he scored at the back end of last season, so I do like the look of Tyreek Mitchell.
Agreed.
And I've also picked out one for that plays for us, Nathan Teller.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it yesterday. We had a pre-season game against Cardiff. I managed to catch some of it. I was busy with the dog at the same time, but I was keeping an eye on comms. And Teller came on in the second half and got both assists for both of Che Adams' goals and looked lively.
Yeah, very good. And he's only 6.5 million.
Yeah, exactly. I guess to end the whole pricing option, the debate has been running rife in the FPL community, so we might as well join it in the Sky. Sancho versus Bruno. Now, in this game, there's 1.5 million difference. Which way are you being swayed?
I feel like with the way sort of Bruno was at the back end of last season, his sort of returns dried up a little bit. Now, they could easily get back and firing with obviously Sancho coming in. Obviously, he can then feed Sancho. But I think for the 10.3 million for Sancho, I think it's maybe worth the risk to go for Sancho.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm split. So in my first team, I've got Bruno, and in my second team, I've got Sancho. And it is amazing what you can get for the extra 1.5 million across the board. But I'd just be scared to see the fact that Bruno will inevitably be 80, 90% ownership. And if he holds and Sancho gets a 2-pointer and is pulled off after 65 minutes, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that is the
That's
risk.
the worry.
It's worth pointing out.
It's just frightening. And yeah, I guess the irony, to do with our name and the whole season keepers, talking of a goalkeeper, I wouldn't be surprised to keep Martinez for the entire season. His price 7.2. I know we've spoken about Sanchez as an option, but I fully expect Martinez's kind of percentage ownership to be well above 50% at least come the start of the season. And goalkeepers are probably an area that you don't really rotate with in Sky too much unless you're desperate for a captaincy. And man, this guy is a save tier bonus magnet. So if they keep a clean sheet, he's even been picked for man of the match a few times. So yeah, Martinez is one that's consistently in the back of my mind, even though I find myself gambling on Sanchez and then swiftly moving back to Martinez.
Yeah, it's very clear for me, keepers wise. It's just between those two really fighting for a place in my team.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably enough prices and fixtures for one podcast. We're obviously, this is the first one of our Sky series, and we're hoping to carry you guys through the entire season. You can potentially laugh about how badly we're doing, or hopefully cheer us on if we're doing all right. But we just wanted to do something a little bit different. It's the two of us. We thoroughly enjoy, the fantasy football aspect of things, and we thought would give deservedly a little bit more focus to Sky and try and keep them succinct. So, this half an hour, 40 minutes is what we're aiming to achieve, because we're not going to pretend that we know as much about this game as some of the top pods out there and the top big boys. But if we can give something a little bit different, that means a lot to us. Right. Well, I think we'll end it as we normally end it, James. So for those on the FPL podcast, they'll be used to this. But guys, it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Cheers all.